TV soap news and spoilers say that in the quiet, sprawling town of Willow Creek, where secrets whispered through the branches of ancient oaks and love stories unfolded in the shadow of grand estates, the lives of Bill Harper, Hayley Monroe, and Dany Harper were irrevocably intertwined. The saga of their relationships, fraught with passion, betrayal, and heartbreak, played out like a Shakespearean tragedy against the backdrop of the gated community known as Beyond the Gates. At the heart of this drama lay a question that hung heavy in the air: what would happen if Hayley suffered a miscarriage? Would Bill, torn between his past and present, abandon her to rekindle his love with his ex-wife, Dany? The answer to this question would unravel the fragile threads of their lives, exposing raw emotions and buried desires. Bill Harper was a man of contradictions, charming yet guarded, loyal yet haunted by the ghosts of his past. His marriage to Dany had once been the envy of Willow Creek, a union built on shared dreams and fiery passion. But like many great loves, theirs had crumbled under the weight of unspoken resentments and irreconcilable differences. Their divorce, finalized 3 years ago, had left Bill adrift, searching for meaning in a world that felt colder without Dany's warmth. Yet, fate has a way of stirring old embers. When Bill fell gravely ill last winter, struck by a mysterious fever that confined him to his bed for weeks, it was Dany who stepped into the void. She arrived at his doorstep, her auburn hair catching the weak sunlight, her eyes filled with a mixture of worry and resolve. She nursed him through sleepless nights, her hands steady as she pressed cool cloths to his forehead, her voice a soothing balm as she read to him from his favorite novels. In those fevered moments, Bill saw the Dany he had fallen in love with, the woman who had once promised to stand by him through sickness and health. The chemistry between them was undeniable, a spark that refused to die despite the years and the pain. Hayley, Bill's new fiancée, watched from the sidelines, her heart twisting with jealousy. She saw the way Bill's eyes softened when Dany entered the room, the way his laughter came easier in her presence. Hayley, with her golden curls and earnest smile, had always believed she could fill the void Dany had left. But now, as she witnessed their quiet moments of connection, doubt gnawed at her soul. Did Bill still love Dany? Was Hayley merely a placeholder, a temporary solace for a man who could never let go of his first love? Hayley Monroe was a woman of resilience, but beneath her sunny exterior lay a well of anxiety that threatened to overflow. She had come to Willow Creek seeking a fresh start, leaving behind a troubled past in the city. Meeting Bill had felt like a miracle, a chance to build a life filled with love and stability. Their whirlwind romance culminated in an engagement, and soon after, the discovery of her pregnancy. The news filled Hayley with a fragile hope, a belief that this child would cement their bond and anchor Bill to her forever. But pregnancy was not the idyllic journey Hayley had imagined. From the start, she was plagued by sharp cramps that sent her to the doctor's office in a panic. Her anxiety, already a constant companion, spiraled into dread. She spent sleepless nights Googling symptoms, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. The doctors assured her that stress could exacerbate her discomfort, but their words did little to quell the fear that gripped her heart. She confided in Bill, hoping for reassurance, but his responses were often distracted, his thoughts seemingly elsewhere, perhaps with Dany. The tension in their relationship grew palpable. Hayley's insecurities flared as she noticed Bill's lingering glances toward Dany during community gatherings at Beyond the Gates. Dany, with her effortless grace and sharp wit, seemed to command Bill's attention in a way Hayley never could. Worse still, Dany's skepticism about Hayley's pregnancy cut like a knife. At a neighborhood barbecue, Dany's arched eyebrow and murmured comment, "Is she really pregnant, or is this just another way to keep Bill tethered?" reached Hayley's ears, leaving her humiliated and furious. Dany's lack of sympathy was a stark contrast to the nurturing role she had played during Bill's illness, and it deepened Hayley's sense of isolation. The miscarriage came without warning, a cruel twist of fate that shattered Hayley's world. It began with a piercing pain in the middle of the night, a sensation so intense it stole her breath. She stumbled to the bathroom, her hands trembling as she saw the blood. Bill, roused by her cries, drove her to the hospital, his face pale and drawn. The doctors confirmed her worst fears: the pregnancy was lost. Hayley lay in the sterile hospital bed, her body racked with sobs, her dreams of motherhood slipping through her fingers like sand. In the days that followed, Hayley retreated into herself, a shadow of the vibrant woman she had once been. The nursery they had begun to prepare, a soft yellow room filled with stuffed animals and tiny clothes, became a painful reminder of what could have been. Bill tried to comfort her, but his words felt hollow, his touch distant. He was grieving too, but his sorrow seemed tempered by a restlessness that Hayley couldn't ignore. She caught him staring out the window late at night, his phone buzzing with messages from Dany, who had heard of their loss and offered her condolences. Dany's presence, even from a distance, loomed large. Hayley's grief was compounded by the gnawing fear that Bill would see her as broken, unworthy of his love. She remembered the way he had leaned on Dany during his illness, the way their shared history had seemed to knit them together in ways Hayley could never replicate. Would this tragedy push Bill back into Dany's arms? The thought was unbearable, yet it clung to Hayley like a shadow. Bill Harper stood at a crossroads, his heart torn between duty and desire. He loved Hayley, or at least, he believed he did. She had brought light into his life when he was drowning in the aftermath of his divorce. Her optimism, her unwavering belief in their future, had been a lifeline. But the miscarriage had changed everything. Seeing Hayley so broken, so consumed by grief, stirred a guilt in Bill that he couldn't shake. He wondered if he had failed her, if his divided heart had somehow contributed to her pain. At the same time, Dany's re-entry into his life had awakened feelings he thought he had buried. Her care during his illness had reminded him of the woman he had married. The woman who knew him better than anyone. Their conversations, once cautious and polite, grew deeper, more intimate. Dany spoke of her own regrets, of the mistakes they had both made during their marriage. She hinted at the possibility of a second chance, her words laced with a longing that mirrored Bill's own. Yet, Bill was not the same man he had been 3 years ago. The divorce had scarred him, teaching him the cost of impulsive decisions. He knew that leaving Hayley now, in the wake of her loss, would devastate her. But staying felt like a lie, a betrayal of the truth that simmered in his heart. A part of him still loved Dany. The choice before him was agonizing: stay with Hayley and build a future on the ashes of their shared grief, or risk everything to reclaim a love that might no longer exist. Dany Harper was no villain, but neither was she a saint. Her return to Bill's life had been driven by genuine concern during his illness, but it had also awakened a hunger for what she had lost. She missed the life they had built together, the grand house and beyond the gates, the social status, the partnership that had once felt unbreakable. Seeing Bill with Hayley, a younger woman who seemed to falter under pressure, only strengthened Dany's resolve. She believed she was better suited for Bill, that their shared history gave her a claim Hayley could never match. Dany's skepticism about Hayley's pregnancy had been cruel, but it stemmed from a place of insecurity. She feared that a child would bind Bill to Hayley forever, closing the door on any chance of reconciliation. When news of the miscarriage reached her, Dany felt a fleeting pang of guilt, but it was quickly overshadowed by opportunity. She reached out to Bill, offering her support, her words carefully chosen to remind him of their past. She invited him to coffee, to walks in the park, each encounter a step toward reclaiming what she believed was hers. But Dany underestimated Hayley's strength. Grief had broken Hayley, but it had also forged her into something fiercer. When Hayley learned of Bill's meetings with Dany, she confronted him, her voice trembling with rage and pain. The argument that followed laid bare the fault lines in their relationship, forcing Bill to confront the consequences of his indecision. The story of Bill, Hayley, and Dany reached its climax one stormy evening at Beyond the Gates. The rain pounded against the windows of Bill's home as he sat across from Hayley, their voices rising in a torrent of accusations and confessions. Hayley demanded to know where his heart truly lay, her eyes blazing with a defiance that took Bill aback. For the first time, he saw the depth of her resilience, the fire that had carried her through her darkest moments. Bill's answer was halting, uncertain. He admitted his feelings for Dany, but he also spoke of his commitment to Hayley, of the future they could still build. It was a moment of raw honesty, one that left them both exposed and vulnerable. Hayley, tears streaming down her face, made a choice of her own. She would not beg Bill to stay. If his heart was divided, she deserved better. She packed a bag and left for her sister's house, leaving Bill alone with his thoughts. In the weeks that followed, Bill grappled with his decision. He met with Dany, hoping to find clarity, but their conversations lacked the spark he had expected. The past, he realized, was a memory, not a promise. Dany's charm was familiar, but it no longer held the power it once had. He found himself missing Hayley, not the idealized version of her, but the real woman, with her flaws and her strength. Hayley, meanwhile, began to rebuild. She sought therapy to process her grief, joined a support group for women who had experienced miscarriage, and rediscovered her passion for painting. The canvases she created were raw, filled with the colors of her pain and her healing. She was not whole, not yet, but she was finding her way. When Bill came to her, weeks later, his apology was not a grand gesture but a quiet plea. He spoke of his mistakes, of the clarity he had found in her absence. He asked for a chance to earn her trust, not as a savior, but as a partner willing to face the hard work of rebuilding. Hayley did not say yes immediately. She needed time, space to ensure that her heart was ready. But she also saw the sincerity in his eyes, the man who had finally chosen her, not out of duty, but out of love. Would Bill and Dany have gotten back together after Hayley's miscarriage? The answer, in the end, was no. The pull of the past was strong, but it could not withstand the reality of the present. Bill's journey was one of reckoning, of learning to honor the woman who stood by him through his doubts. Hayley's story was one of resilience, of finding strength in the face of unimaginable loss. And Dany, though left to confront her own regrets, would find her own path, perhaps in a new chapter beyond Willow Creek. We hope you enjoyed it and look forward to sharing more with you in the future. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe TV soap news and spoilers for more updates on Beyond the Gates.